Welcome everybody to Watchers in the Dark. I am your host, Garrett, today, joined with Jordan and Joe from War Games Live. So today we're just going to be going through and having a little interview with him, talking about the places he's been, his favorite moments and everything. So just hang out, have a good time, and there should be a link in the description at the top to his channel and where you can check him out. With that said, let's get into the first question, Joe. A lot of your fans want to know this. I've heard it asked a million times in your streams. How did you get into the hobby?
Oh man, so my very first contact with Games Workshop stuff was actually Hero Quest way back in the day when it first came out. I don't know if you guys remember Hero Quest.
I do know Hero Quest.
Yeah,
that's the first version of Fantasy, right? The very first.
It was actually like a collaboration between GW and Milton Bradley way back in the day, and like honestly, even back then, the game itself was kind of trash. Like I didn't even. The game was okay, but I just fell in love with the miniatures from the first time I opened that box. The minis were just so much cooler than anything else in any other game, even back then, right? And they had little like cardboard furniture and everything for the different dungeon rooms, and I really fell head over heels for that game. I have my brothers. I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me, and my younger sister is 3 years younger, and I would rope them into playing Hero Quest like all the time. I even like made my own custom maps and like a custom campaign for it and everything. And then probably about, I don't know, maybe a year or two after Hero Quest came out, GW actually released Advanced Hero Quest, which was like the original Warhammer Fantasy before Warhammer Fantasy was even a thing. And that set was the first time I kind of like plugged into the whole Citadel Games Workshop, like the first Citadel miniatures catalog I ever looked at. God, man, back in the day, like this was how you used to like look at miniatures, is you'd get this catalog and it was just black and white pictures of these miniatures, and you would order like, I want to get a Lich, right? And there's like 5 different versions of the Lich miniature, and you didn't even get to pick which one you wanted. It was just random which one they sent you from the blister packs, right?
Oh wow.
So
Sears for nerds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and man, I spent hours and hours and hours just drooling over that, because I didn't have money when I was a kid, right? I couldn't afford to play Warhammer, really.
I feel it. I started when I was 13, so I had zero money.
Yep. So I saved up like all my money for my birthday one year, and I bought a bunch of miniatures from Games Workshop mail order, and I had to wait like, I don't know if you guys are younger, a lot younger, but back in the day, man, when you mail ordered something, it was literally like months before you got it. Like it wasn't like a week or whatever. I ordered stuff from Games Workshop, and I think it must have gotten mailed from England, right? And I swear to God, it was like 6 months before I got that stuff. I even like basically forgotten that I ordered it, and then this box showed up at my house with all these pewter miniatures, and it was awesome. I loved it. I played with them. Like we were using them for D&D and all kinds of other like nerdy stuff. But my very first contact with anything Games Workshop was that. And then I kind of lost touch with the whole hobby for years, right? I probably all through, like, I'd say all through college and through my first kind of job after college, I didn't have any contact at all with like wargaming. And then I moved back to San Antonio, where I had grown up, and I was just looking for like a hobby and a way to meet people and stuff. And I went to the local Games Workshop store, and kind of got reintroduced to Warhammer. I was originally going to play Fantasy, but the guy at the store was like, "Oh no, you don't want to play Fantasy. Nobody plays Fantasy anymore."
Yeah.
So this was like, it was like right at the beginning of 7th edition when Fantasy was kind of dying.
Okay, yeah, the good old days. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well that's cool. I really wanted to play dwarves because I am a huge dwarf fan. Like I freaking love dwarves and everything.
Let's go, Votan!
You said anything else, I was going to put you in the book.
I'm so excited about Votan.
I already told everybody in our local meta that's like pretty confident players. I'm playing Votan. I'm spamming it until the grave. I don't care if it's bad or good. We're going to play it until it's good.
I really kind of hope that they're bad, because so many people are going to be playing them that if they turn out to be like really good, it's going to be kind of bad.
Yes.
Yes. But no, I just so they didn't have, they were like, okay, I was like, I want to play dwarves. The guy's like, well, there aren't any dwarves in 40K. I was like, what's the next best thing to dwarves? And that's how I ended up with Space Wolves. And I've been playing like Space Wolves.
They got that Norse mythology that the dwarves have in Warhammer Fantasy. They're basically the space dwarves. Like realistically, when you look at Warhammer Fantasy,
they have beards. They drink a lot of booze, right? They have like some Norse symbolism and stuff on their shields and whatever.
They have like they do have like grudges and stuff too. Space Wolves very much hold a grudge.
Yeah.
Very similar.
But I really, they're a fun army. I've enjoyed it. It's I'm kind of a one army guy, or I have been up to this point. So Space Marines are a good choice for that because you can just there's always something you can get for Space Marines.
There's a lot to collect for that army. It is nightmarishly deep.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
so you like to play the game. You like to travel. But what blows my mind is you go to these tournaments and you primarily just stream, right? You don't really play.
Right.
So you're going there to look at these models. Why do you want to travel to stream? I mean, you can get on the internet and look at pictures of cool models, right? That's what most people do. I'm not throwing shade. What you're doing is super cool, but I'm curious, like, what makes you tick? What made you decide, hey, I'm going to get in my my RV and drive around and start streaming?
Well, really it was the only way that I thought I could make the channel work, right? Because I couldn't just stream events like every 2 times a year or something when they happen in my area and get people to tune into my channel. So the travel is, I enjoy it, right? I like being on the road. I think I'm well suited to it. I've always been into travel and used to do a lot of backpacking and stuff back when I was younger, and I hiked about 1,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail.
Wow!
With my dog. So that kind of thing. This experience reminds me a lot of actually that experience of hiking the AT, because it's on the AT you like hike for a day and then or 2 or 3 days, and then you go into town and you get your groceries and kind of re-up yourself for the next leg of the journey. And that's basically exactly what my schedule is here on the road. Like, instead of hiking for 2 or 3 days, I'm driving between events, and then I go into town, by going to a tournament or whatever, and re-up my stuff. And it's just, I'm not saying I'm not doing the stream because of the travel, but I enjoy the travel. But the reason I'm traveling is because I think that when you're streaming, honestly, like, the most important thing in streaming is consistency, because you cannot build an audience on inconsistency. People won't watch if they don't know that they can tune in on a certain schedules, because people will like plan their free time around tuning in if they like your channel enough. And that's I've actually been lucky enough to have some people do that with my channel. I'm always honored, right, when people tell me that they are have me up on the big screen TV at home, or that they're looking forward to the stream this weekend because they want to do some hobbying while I have it on the background or whatever. That stuff puts a huge smile on my face, because time is the most precious thing that all of us have, and for people to give their time to me basically and watch the stream, it's really an honor. So
streaming is a lot of fun. It is a lot of work, but it's so worth it for the community. The people you get to meet, the people you get to chat with and hang out, hear the stories of their games, is just 100% worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching these big games stream online. It's so much fun. It's like watching ESPN, but it's little plastic dollies instead. I get a kick out of it. I love it.
Thanks, man. Well, it's fun. Yeah, I enjoy it. And it's something that's weird about what I do as a streamer that a lot of the streamers don't get is I get to drive around and I meet a lot of the people who watch the stream, right? So like most people aren't they're not doing a channel. Sorry, I think there's a freaking about something. They're not doing something where they're traveling around like I do, right? So it's really cool to like go to a new city and someone walks up to me like, "Hey, I'm so and so in the chat," or I watch the channel all the time. That kind of stuff is really cool, and it's something that I can do because of the travel that I like a lot. So
yeah. So I do have a few questions for you. What is something that you wish that would change in the game, either as a spectator and as a player. So either or. It can be, or both, actually, it would be preferred. But do you have something that you wish would change for the viewer and for the players?
Yeah, the game's never perfect and never has been.
No.
I think that the game is in better shape now than it's ever been before, and
Oh, yeah.
some people. I don't know how long you guys been playing. I've only been playing since the start of 7th edition, but like, there were times when Games Workshop didn't put an FAQ out for years at a time, right?
Yes.
Like 5 years, like 6 years, without an FAQ.
Yeah, I played in
right?
5th, and it was a waste. Like I played the end of 5th, realistically the start of 6th, and you didn't see erratas were like, and when they did come out, nobody knew them. Information just wasn't as popular as it is. I couldn't imagine, like, back in the day, Battlescribe was like taboo and weird because people were like, why would I want to use this like ancient looking thing? But now it's a staple of it's a staple of like what we use, and they used it for tournaments and stuff. I remember everybody being like, why would you use Battlescribe? It's always wrong. There's like things on it, but the game has changed so much.
It really has, and that lack of updating of the game was what really gave rise to the whole ITC in the first place, right? With the Frontline Gaming's FAQ and all that stuff. So, to look at the way the game is now, with how often things are getting updated, it's sort of a blessing and a curse. I think it's good for the game that there's updates, but I also see people all the time in my chat who are like, I bought the last mission pack and I have like a life and stuff to do, and I probably only played 4 games of 40K with that old mission pack before the new one comes out, right? So then it's kind of this weird thing where, I said this on the stream last weekend, but when you patch a piece of software, no one has to learn those differences because they're just enforced for you in the software innately, right? So like in StarCraft, when they change the speed of the Zergling, you don't have to remember when you're playing against Zerg, oh yeah, the Zergling is faster now. I mean, I guess you have to not lose. But you don't have to know that to play the game correctly, right? Because the computer enforces that rule, right? But in 40K, when they change a rule, it's on you and your opponent to know what that rule is in order to play the game correctly, right? According to what the rules are. And a perfect example of this to me is the fly keyword, right? If you guys remember, the way that fly works in charges was changed like 4 times in 2 weeks or something, right? So where they changed the fact that at first fly ignored vertical distance even when you were charging, even if you're going through terrain, right? So you could like deep strike in at the top of a building and have a 0-inch charge to someone on the bottom floor of the building, right? And then Games Workshop said, yeah, that's what we intended. And then like 2 days later, they put out an FAQ that changed it to something else, and then they changed it again. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember this. The whiplash from that, even to this day, is still impacting the way people remember the rules, right? Because there's all these different versions floating around in people's heads, and they're like, I can do this, and then, oh no, I can't do this, but then they said I could do it again, and then they said, now I say I can't do it. So this is a kind of a long-winded answer, but at the end of the day, I think what I really like about the game is Games Workshop, seeming to care more about making good rules these days.
Yes.
But what I would say is I wish they would get it closer to right the first time, like internally, before they bring it out to the public, because there's only so much of that rules whiplash that people will take before they're like, I give up. I'm just not even going to try to keep up with it anymore.
So with that, I really think I wish they would reach out more to like the competitive players, the ITC stuff, and be like, hey, these are the experiment. Like, we have play testers, but they're not enough. The community gets to trial run the rules to actually like impact the change or like make sure the change was good for the hobby or not, and then they kind of just release it, which I do wish would change. I agree with you on that. That I wish there wasn't so much patching, basically, like you said, like all these minor tweaks all of the time. That is a big killer. I will say I 100% agree though. The game, in all the time I've played, right now is probably my favorite time to be playing the game in general. I've played. I've had some breaks in the hobby. I've done stuff like that. Never really more than like 6 months or so, but And I played ITC back in like 6th and 7th edition. I played like the ITC rules. One of my favorite secondaries is Old School, where you have to slay the warlord, backfield edge, like First Blood, and there's one more, and they're all like worth 4 points. Oh, or 1 point. I forget. I think it was like weird point scoring.
First Blood, Slay the Warlord, and Linebreaker were the 3 things. So Linebreaker was have had a unit in your opponent's deployment zone. Yeah. And First Blood was always annoying because like it used to actually decide games a lot in 7th edition because only one player could score First Blood, right? Because it was literally the first thing that dies in the game.
Yeah.
And then they changed it a little bit later so that you could score First Blood on either first turn. But anyway, it's those were interesting times. But I don't want them to stop changing the game and improving it. I just want them to do a better job of that first pass internally before it gets released to us, right?
I personally am a huge fan. I know a lot of people are upset about the books coming out every 6 months, but I actually love it. I'm such a big fan of the different missions. I think they were $25 or $35 for the book. I wish.
But why no spiral binding? Where's the spiral? That was so nice, that first one.
I will say,
Give us the spiral bit.
I will say for $25-$35 every 6 months, like I think that's reasonable, especially in a hobby that's as things as this one. But it also it radically changes the game, I think in a good way, because I think they are getting more and more competent as they go. I will say my big change, if I could change one thing about the game currently, this will be controversial. I wish we would go back to only being able to pick 1, maybe 2 secondaries from our personalized secondaries, because the game fundamentally plays so different than it did 6 months ago, because the secondary game and how you had like you just had a deficit if like your opponent, like now you can basically build a list around your army that almost interacts 0 with your opponent in some regards.
That was shocking to me that they did that, because it's a big risk to change all the secondaries and in the same patch let you pick more than one of them, right? Because if there's a world where secondaries are like a little busted, like we're seeing with Necrons and Sisters for example, if you can only take one of them, that limits the damage somewhat, right?
Yes.
So it'll be busted for 15 points, but it won't be super busted for the whole game. But by giving them these new secondaries or slight changes to them and letting you pick more than one of them in the same patch was, to me, it seemed like it was kind of a risky move, and it wasn't something that I think anyone was really asking for. And I would also say that it increases the cognitive load on your opponent, because like when I walk up to a table, I don't know what the Gene Stealer cult secondaries are, right? I mean, I sort of do for a living, right? But most people don't, right? Most people don't know what the Imperial Knight secondaries really do or whatever, right? So it's another one of those things where you have to walk up to a table and be like, okay, in your 20-minute explanation of what your army does, also tell me what are your secondary choices and what they do, because they're always like some weird, complicated 5-step process thing for those faction ones. So it's this tricky balance for GW, because I think this edition they have nailed promoting people to play the army fluffy, right? Like there are advantages. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like Havoc and Devastator spam, Centurion spam, literally every type of spam you want to bring up in the past editions. Like people, I feel like I have a lot of friends that are new to this edition, like a lot of people I've met even that have just played this edition, if not last edition. And I was like, it was a different game back before the Rule of 3. And they're like, it couldn't have been that bad. I'm like, you'd show up and sometimes they just have like 8, 9 dreadnoughts. And this is before Redemptors and everything. And that was scary. That was like, especially back in the days when armor value existed, where you just like.
Was it like, it was like 10 Plague Burst Crawlers, I think was a list.
Yeah. The Rule of 3 was such a good, like, genius invention. In so many ways, like people were like, "Oh, I hate the Rule of 3 some days," and I'm like, "It's so much worse. It's so bad if you."
Turn the clock a lawless back just a little bit more to 6th and 7th edition when you saw. I remember there was a big list at one. I don't know, Adepticon or something one year. It was Demons and Inquisition. That was the thing you could do back then.
You could summon demons if you're any army. You could just summon them. You could ally with Tyranids if you wanted to, with any army.
And I think it was Imperial Knights and Hive Tyrants list I saw once, which is just ridiculous.
Everybody
or,
got-
you know, there's the classic stuff that like there's some Dark Angel librarians with a bunch of Fenrisian wolves running around, and the Fenris wolves are now invincible.
My favorite was like the 100 and some or 100 to 200 guardsmen with Azrael. That gives a 4 invuln to everything, and it's just like they just march forward and just like doesn't matter because you're not gonna kill them. The damage did way less back in the day, or way more if you're looking at the rise of D weapons or the. Because there was a good point where like the game wasn't insane, and then they released the first D weapons, and that like shattered any type of balance. A D weapon is, for folks that may not know at home, we had templates back in the day that were about 5-inch pie plate in diameter. It wasn't always a 5-inch pie plate, but they were normally a template.
Different sizes.
Yeah, there's different sizes. This was a common one. It was a large pie plate, and if they rolled anything but a 1, your models were removed from play. And sometimes they'd have rules that if they rolled high enough, it would remove terrain as well and anything on the terrain. I think that was specifically the Death Strike, but it was a lawless wasteland of what you could. There was also Terramancy where you could move and summon terrain. This was actually a lawless wasteland of an edition after the first half.
You would leave the models on the train while you move it.
Yeah.
So you could like create a flying saucer. Like, I'm standing on this rock. Here's a squad. Now over here.
So what I used to play this. This was my competitive list. It was a Space Marine librarian, I believe, and 5 knights. And 5 knights, you touch them all onto the terrain, and you teleport the train. And they'd have. This is back when it would scatter, so you'd roll 2 dice, and it would physically move. So there was a little bit of risk, but you could make it really reliant, and then you just charge at 0 inches and get the charge because you didn't have the 9-inch away rule. The 9-inch away rule is also new because you used to scatter and just lose your whole unit when they hit terrain.
Yep. It was a totally different game, and what you just said though, I think, is proof that the current version of the game is an improvement. Because I have met so many people who started playing this game in 8th edition and 9th edition, right? And so many people who watch my stream are relatively new to the hobby. Right? So when I go to tournaments, like almost everyone that I talk to at a tournament started playing in 9th edition or 8th edition. You know, it is. I think it's proof that the simplification they made to the rules and the changes they have made are positive for the game, because it's definitely grown a lot. And, you know, again, I want to say, like, I think they're doing a great job. They're on the right track. We're kind of in a little bit of an awkward period with Growing Pains, where you guys got to remember, like, I always tell people this too, like what is it? 7 or 8 years ago, Games Workshop had no direct contact with the community at all, right? The Warhammer community page did not exist.
No, you were lucky to hear anything back from them.
It was crazy. Like there were like these snippets of like rumors that would float around on forums of this guy who got an email from one of the guys at Games Workshop to clarify a rule, you know, and then people would, you know, post this picture of an email from Games Workshop, and like, you know, everyone would say, okay, well then we need to play it this way, or then some people would reject it. It was just, you know, what's funny is back then GW sort of like, it was like being in the 41st millennium dealing with them. Like we're you know,
all the bureaucracy.
Just bureaucracy. Yeah.
But so they're kind of a relatively new company when it comes to this new approach to the game. I think that they're sold on it being the right way to do it, because clearly, I mean, the company is growing like crazy. The stock price is like way up, all this other crazy stuff.
I will say it's going down a little bit, but I think that's just because the world's opening up a little bit more for the time being.
Yeah. All the like entertainment companies are taking a little bit of a hit right now, but like it's, you know, they're going to not be perfect at this kind of thing for a while, but they are getting better, I think. So it's just up to us to you know, continue to demand the changes that we want, and you know, I think that their GW's pointed in the right direction. I guess I'm not one of these doomsayer, naysayer people who thinks that the game is like in an awful state, or that it's ridiculously broken or anything. Like, people are complaining a lot now about the new demon saves, right? Like demons have this thing where they have a save that is not an invuln save, so weapons that ignore invuln saves. I
love that rule. Honestly,
I think it's great.
New layers of interesting durability, I think, make the game so much better. I love varied ways to stop damage, like 5 at feel no pains.
Yeah.
That's got a little bit like the main way and reduce damage by 1 and stuff. But I love like introducing new ways to prevent damage and new ways to work around the wound cap and stuff like that. Those are all brand new rules basically for this edition. It would be very rare to see them in any other edition. I think maybe end of 8th and stuff. But these are a lot of new rules that are really impacted the game and change and like making new thoughts and making things more interesting. Because like Gazgul, for example. Yeah, AOC. Yeah. Oh my god, Armor Contempt would have never worked in an older edition at all because of how AP worked. Right. It just would make no sense. But in this edition, it's so good. The way
I don't know if you guys remember when they dropped that FAQ and there was just that one little line that says Armor of Contempt, blah blah. And I remember looking at it, I was like, hey, that's okay. That's pretty good, I guess. That's a buff for sure. But, whatever. And then after thinking about it for like 5 minutes, I was like talking to some other people about it, and it's like, whoa, this is going to completely change the game, right? Like Terminators are going to be a menace, Sisters are going to be insane, like all this.
I was thinking Grey Knights and Death Guard all the way. I'm a big Death Guard guy, but I was like, oh, they're so good. hey, Death Guard are fine. Death Guard are great.
I think Grey Knights are okay too. It's just that people need to catch up hobby-wise and stop taking 5 Dread Knights because Dread Knights are not nearly as good anymore. Like they got to switch into a more infantry-focused build.
I'm a very fan of the triple Rhino, triple 10-man Purifier squads that are combat squatted, and they jump out, they run forward, and they deal like 18 on it. They do like it's realistically 15 mortal wounds to anything. But man, if you're just going for a middle point, that'll really like. That's a pretty good way to remove something off a middle point is 15 mortals, no matter what it has buffed on it.
Yeah, and then 1 unit of Paladins with the armor spell on them as well, which gives them like a -1 up save when they're standing in cover or something ridiculous.
So it is a 2-up, go to a with Armor Contempt, effectively a 1-up, because you have to have AP to cut through their armor. 1-up, then 0-up for cover, and then -1 for the spell.
Crazy.
Yeah. So they have a -1 armor.
They get a save against railguns. Demons were not the first. Yeah. It's crazy,
but like I don't know, man. I go around and I do this every weekend. And I see how the scene is evolving, and it's the thing that's so different now is just the pace of it. It's so crazy fast. Like thinking about Necrons being a menace right now in tournaments.
They were one of the first
codexes. Saying that. I know. Say that to someone 2 months ago, and they're gonna laugh in your face, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now they're like winning every event, or they're high. It's just, but I think that shows as well how difficult a task it is for Games Workshop to balance the game. Because when you think about the changes to Necrons, I mean, yeah, they got a lot of buffs, but you can't really put your finger on one of them and say that's the thing that is making Necrons. I mean, they're secondaries probably, but like they are kind of one of these armies that has kind of had these buffs synergize on top of each other as they've gotten them over time, and so now they're in the place they're at. But it's just so tough to balance a game with all of these different moving parts. And at the end of the day, honestly, I would rather have variety than perfect balance. Like if I have to give up variety to get closer to balance, that's just not what 40K is to me. Like the thing that really draws me to 40K is the huge, crazy variety and complexity and the massive amount of armies and the setting and seeing someone bring a Forge World thing that you didn't even know existed at a tournament, that kind of stuff is fun.
I will say I do wish I do enjoy competitive play. I very much do. I've always been a very competitive person in every game I play, pretty much. I do wish they would have some more uniqueness in the rules. I do like the standardization of the rules, and I'm basically asking for bloat by saying this, but I do wish that things were a little bit more unique and a little bit more tongue-in-cheek or fun. I will say a lot of the like interesting mechanics and stuff have died. Some of them for the good, like aquatic on a Chimera. That rule should have died. Like that's a useless rule that's never come up in a game, maybe ever. Right. So like. Yeah, I understand that, but there are some times that I think, like, man, I feel like there's some missed opportunities or something somewhere in here. I will say I do actually have 2 more game rules I wish that would change. Silent King having core, and Sisters being able to complete that objective as long as they're alive anywhere on the board that they start the action on the point, and that unit just has to be alive. Those are 2 things I think most of the community agrees with need changed. This is another problem with touching so many secondaries. You get into these weird situations that you just have to more balancing and more headaches have to come into.
It's tough, right? Because they took such a huge pass with those changes. But I think kind of the way that GW gets forward here is they need to figure out a way to decouple the rules from print, right? Because the print schedule is so long, and they've already done this. This is why when they announced the change to points, I was so excited, because when they said that points were no longer going to be printed, but they're going to be just online, I didn't care what the new points were going to be, but the fact that they can change the points basically instantly whenever they want to or whenever they have to, that's a huge change to the game, and I wish they would do that with all the rules, right? So that go back to my example of the fly keyword, right? If you want to know how fly actually works, you can't actually look in the rule book anymore. You have to look at a FAQ somewhere, right? And
like tons of rules are like that now. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think about the burden on a new player who wants to play the game and how many books and FAQs and PDFs and everything they have to download. If you're starting from scratch right now in 40K, you literally have to buy like 7 books and download, a million PDFs.
There is zero. Yeah. I believe, to my knowledge, till to this date, there is nowhere to find the Armor Contempt rule in print. You have to find it digitally. Yeah. There's physically no way. Codex. Yeah, you can't. Like, a TO literally cannot show you where the rule is. They'll have to pull up their phone at an event and show you. Which, obviously, you're at an event and stuff like that. But, like, print it in, like, I don't know how hard it would have been instead of having the rules in the last Warzone would have been to just put the errata instead. Instead, just put the erratas or the data slate. Right. Sorry, if whatever you need to do, I feel like there was a way there to facilitate what we wanted there. And like, I do agree having the rules there is nice. But if you told me it was rules or errata, I would have picked errata. I think every day.
Yeah. Just have the rules. Instead of having a separate document of errata, if they had the rules available electronically, then you just update the rules in the actual rules document, and then you have like a sheet that says, here's the stuff that changed. But that way, and I think they're probably going to get there eventually. I just think that right now they're trying to figure out how to monetize that because,
they obviously make a lot of books, obviously. Huge,
right. Huge revenue stream for them, right? Huge. Yeah. So they need to like figure out a way to get away from having rules in books and make books more like a cool thing to have, like a collectible or whatever. Like sell the collector's edition of the codex.
Oh yeah, I would buy the book every time, even if it was on the app. I like the book, but like I'm still gonna buy it even if you post it online. I'll probably buy both. I like buy and use your code every time I buy one of the books. I don't use your app really. That's another big thing. Right. Their app. Oh, come on, guys! It's been so long. We need to get this fixed. I think everybody knows what we're talking about. They're just. It's so crazy. Hey, there we go. We'll just put all the codes on the spin wheel, and that'll be our next prize giveaway right over there.
Probably still have some. Whenever I meet a new player, I'm like, "Hey, you want some books? What are you playing? Here, let me see if I got the code for it." And I send him a photo later. I've literally done that with most of my books.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some stuff that's a little bit more fun and not so gripey on moping on that. Sure. What is your favorite? I feel like you might like this. What is your favorite lore bit or character from 40K, if you have one, or fantasy? Because I know you're a little bit of a fantasy guy.
This is like the easiest question ever. It's definitely Bjorn the Fell-Handed.
They always pick their chapter every time they pick their army. Every time.
Well, that's one reason why you pick.
I know.
But no, Bjorn. Like, I don't want to do spoilers here, but there's some cool like Horus Heresy stuff with Bjorn. That like one of the books has him in there, and it's just really good. And I love Dreadnoughts. I love the whole. I think Dreadnoughts are the perfect like encapsulation of what 40K is to me, right? It's this thing with a dead guy inside of it that runs on like diesel, with smokestacks on the back that runs around on the battlefield and kills stuff, right?
He's not allowed to die yet, but he's already dead.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Even in death, there is service or whatever it is. Even in death, I serve. Yeah, that's the big tagline. And then
Bjorn has this whole thing too, where he actually was alive and served with Lehman Russ during the Horus Heresy and all this. So like he's this interesting character that connects those two universes, and I just think it's a really interesting character to have. He's really like angsty, and he's like he has mixed feelings about Lehman Russ because he basically got abandoned by his dad, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, so he's an interesting character. I really like Bjorn.
My favorite is when they woke him to go fight on not Fenris. What is the planet that the Thousand Suns, their homeworld? Do you guys remember? Prospero. That's what it is. They were like, we need to wake you up to go fight on Prospero, and he's like, no. And then the servitor goes to like deactivate him or like put him back in stasis, and he's like, no, I want to be awake for a little longer. And then he starts telling the tales of like Lehman Russ and stuff to like the new initiates and stuff, trying to like raise their spirits. This is a cool thing. I didn't know he was a chapter master until very recently. That he used to be the chapter master.
He was the first Great Wolf after Lehman Russ went into the Eye of Terror.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. Which is so crazy to think that we still have somebody like from that era, the first chapter master of like, so like he's literally seen it all. Like he is a great character. He's absolutely a fantastic character.
And you know, he was like the second or third model I ever painted. You know, I've had him in my army. Like I always, anytime Bjorn is actually like sort of viable in a competitive setting, I'm super happy. You know, like I haven't seen anyone win a tournament with Bjorn in their list, but I'm still got my fingers crossed. Maybe one day somebody.
I mean, he's fine. He's like 9 wounds. He gets character blocked. Space Wolves are in okay position. They just got a lot of stiff competition.
Yeah. It's tough to be Marines. You know, like it's something I've realized more as time's gone on is that I really think Games Workshop designs Marines to be baby's first 40k army, right?
Yes.
So like they're supposed to be super approachable and not that complicated.
Yeah.
Their complexity comes with the insane breadth of their model range, right? So you can like cook up crazy lists. There's so many choices. But that's one reason that I'm really looking forward to Votan, because I'm hoping they're going to be a little bit more quirky and weird and almost more AdMech like. I hope.
There we go. Yeah. I play Tau as one of my main armies. Nice. And I play AdMech as also one of my main armies. And nice. I play I basically just play
8 armies.
Yeah, I play 8 armies, but those two are really like have a soft spot in my heart. And they're looking like what I want to be, a Horde Tau army in a lot of regards, with maybe some melee splashed in, which is what I love. I love the new Berserker models.
Oh yeah, you guys with like the giant axes. That's so cool.
The two power fist guy. That guy's...
Yeah.
I wish that they had better beards. That's my only complaint so far about is like they don't have beards, and I know why they don't, because to sculpt a beard on a modular head that can go over any torso is actually like really hard. So that's why if you ever see like the best bearded models in 40k, like some of the Space Wolf characters and stuff, they're actually like one piece head and torso, and they're monopose for that reason. But it's okay, because I've taught myself how to do beards from green stuff because Primaris Marines are so boring. I had to add beards to them.
The beards are cool. I do think like dwarves with beards, yes, doesn't catch my teeth. Realistically, it really doesn't make sense a lot of the time for them to have beards, because like the helmet, there's so many more complications that come along with a beard than being practical.
But they're awesome, right?
They are awesome. Yeah. My girlfriend won't let me keep this much longer. This needs to be shaved off soon, so I enjoy it while I have it.
You both have beards. I don't. Maybe that's why I'm not that excited for Leagues of Votan. I want to see people paint them. I don't really want to collect them, but
yeah, I'm excited.
I'm liking the beard. That's why.
Yeah.
That's probably why. I don't like the paint scheme that Games Workshop has been showing off for the Votan. I think that like when they released, I know it's another tangent, but that moon buggy model, if you can imagine that thing being like super heavily weathered with like weathering pigments and like Martian dust, it would look so much better with like a crazy weathering pass than that clean way that they showed it. But anyway.
I like the teal they were doing, like on the bike or like that greenish. It was more green. That like weird teal green color that's like kind of army-ish looking. I really liked.
Scrubs.
Yeah, I wish it was. I wish that was more of their scheme overall. Just something unique and brightly colored that when you saw artwork, you were like, man, that's a unique fit. But I get it. I get what they're going for. They want something that's probably pretty reliable. But yeah, I do have another few questions for you. What has been the best moment so far of your travels?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough question.
Obviously,
I would say
obviously meeting us and the fans and seeing everybody else,
no,
I'm sure is a huge number one.
it really is a huge. Honestly, like that's something that I love about my job, I guess now. But man, I don't. Oh, I guess streaming wise, like just being able to email someone or talk to someone or like call someone and say, hey, I'm Joe from this channel called War Games Live. And when I started the channel, it was okay. Who the heck are you? I have no idea who this guy is. And now, like most of the time, I'm getting people like know the channel or familiar with it a little bit, and that's been extremely great for me because like people don't see all the back end setting up these streams or figuring out what tournament I'm going to go to or trying to get like permission to stream at some of the bigger events, all that stuff. So that's been really gratifying. And I don't know if that's me. Is that me or someone else's fan or something? You guys hear that?
I don't hear anything. No.
Okay. Okay, it's weird. I guess it's just on my end.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, nope.
Okay, no big deal. So that's been fun from like I guess from a business point of view. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I don't want to be a celebrity. I'm not honestly have no interest in that at all. Like if I could just do the stream and be totally behind the curtain and everything, I would have preferred to do that from the beginning. But I just mean from like from having access to all these cool events, it's been really, really fun. Like being able to like just get invited to, go to Seattle and do a stream out there is awesome. I got to go visit the Pacific Northwest. I've never been there before, right? Or being able to, stream it at like LVO was like a huge dream of mine from when I first started the stream. So that was a big deal. Being able to just like meet all my fans, people who watch the show, but also like meeting my personal Warhammer player heroes, like people that I've been watching on stream for years, and like meeting them in person and stuff has been really cool too. So it's just been, it's almost surreal. Like I don't know if all of it's really sunk in yet.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm just constantly going to the next thing. I don't have time to like sit down and process. But it's been a whirlwind, man. It's been and it's been less than a year,
So I've been on the other side of that screen where I started anonymous with another channel. A lot of our guys doesn't know this. I was on Playing with Power for a long time. I helped like found it. I helped edit. I helped be a player and stuff. And we did everything. Like you would never know who we are unless you joined the Discord or like like interacted with us in the community. Because a lot of events and stuff we'd go to and we'd like. It was super tough to like prove that it was us too, because we would go to like events and be like, "Hey, this is our channel," and they're like, "No, it's not." And I'm like, "I like can show you my Google Studio," and then they just like give us passes and stuff. But like before, it was like, "Oh man, are you like?" The recognition does feel a little bit good, but man, I will say those days were like crushing when they're like. I remember my favorite moment. We had a group of friends that were just starting a smaller YouTube channel. I say small. It was like 10,000 subscribers and stuff. They just like hit 10,000 subscribers, and they're nice. All about their personality and live streaming and stuff. And they came up to him and was like, "Hey, can you get a picture of me and him?" And I'm like, chilling there as a member of Playing Power, taking the picture. And then they like walk off, and I'm like, that hurts so bad. But that's my ego, but that's like that was so funny there because we made the same type of content. We made the exact same type of content, and I was larger than him at that time by quite a large margin. I just that's basically they were like, "Who?" And I'm like, "That's my favorite story to tell." Because he was like, he like constantly throughout that weekend, me and him were walking around to booths, buying cards, stuff like that. It was Magic the Gathering based. And people always wanted pictures with him, and I'd always end up holding the camera. And they're like, "Who's this?" And I'm like, I work for Playing with Power." And they're like, "Oh, yeah." Their faces would change, and I'm like, "I'm just a random person here." Yeah.
What do you think your favorite tournament is, Joe? Like for you, as somebody who just likes to go and watch, what's the best?
Oh, definitely. For me personally, it's the Alamo GT, just because
Oh wow.
that's in San Antonio, and it's my very first tournament that I ever went to, and
It's nostalgic, yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
lot of friends there. But it's also like it was the first time that I realized that a Warhammer tournament is not really about like beating people at Warhammer. It's
Oh,
about
sure.
like hanging out with a bunch of Warhammer nerds for a weekend. Because like in the Alamo GT, the first year I went, it was held at this like this I guess it was like a I don't know, some kind of event hall in downtown San Antonio, and there was like a little bar like attached to the actual venue,
There we go.
and just like literally people buying each other beers and the game all the time, and like just walking around seeing people like totally hammered for a lot of the weekend. I don't like drink that much, but it was one of those things that showed me that a Warhammer event is not super serious. It doesn't have to be, And I just enjoy going back there because I've been away from San Antonio for God a long time now, like 8 years. But I still have a lot of friends down there. All the people who like I first started playing Warhammer with are down there, so it's just fun to go back and reconnect with all those people. That's something else that I love about Warhammer tournaments is like you see people there that you see a couple times a year, but you're instantly friends with them again, right? Because you have something to talk about, you have something in common, and it's something that I know a lot of people out there, especially in this day and age with so much of our lives being online. People are like, how do I even make friends with people anymore, right? And I always tell people like, pick up a hobby like Warhammer where you have to do it in person, and you'll find
You'll meet so many
awesome
people. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I've made lifetime friends with so many. My two of my best friends were made through the hobby, and they are truly my best friends.
Yeah.
Our friendship has extended so much farther past the hobby at this point. We've been friends for
Yep.
10 plus years. And I just
Yep.
never would have met, never would have interacted with them. And they're people that like we have nothing in common outside of that. But now we have made a friendship through this connected hobby of ours, which is just so crazy to
Beautiful.
look back on. Yeah, it really
It
is.
is. Yeah.
I will ask you one last question, Joe. Or I guess
Sure.
it's a two-parter. What are some of the trials and tribulations of actually living on the road or like going to these events? Have there like what's the like any hiccups that like you never thought of when you first set out on this venture that you would like warn against or like what share your experience of like what is the tough times of doing this other than driving for obviously 8 hours a day plus or less or more or whatever it is. Yeah.
You got to get used to that. But I would say, honestly, right now the summer has been rough because it's so hot, and so I can't just like when I first started this, it was I think around September last year, and I know this is maybe not that exciting of an answer, but I could just like basically park anywhere and sleep overnight for free because I'd stay in Walmart parking lots a lot, or I'd stay
Yeah.
at like Home Depot, and then in the summertime it's just been harder to find places to stay, and I have to pay to stay somewhere because I have to run my air conditioner and stuff. And it's not like that exciting. I haven't had any like terrible like weird road stuff happen to me. I haven't had any weirdos, I haven't gotten any fights with anybody. I haven't gotten arrested or anything like that.
Thank
I'm,
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been pretty. It's been pretty chill. I will say that last year when I went to, I did a tournament up in Canada. It was the Stutter Snotling. It was the name of the tournament in Toronto at sometime around the end of last year, and getting across the Canadian border during all of the COVID stuff was a freaking nightmare. It was so I had to get a COVID test like no more than 48 hours before my border crossing, and then I went across the border, and then they made me do another test on the other side. And it's not a big deal. I understand why they're doing it. Totally fine,
100.
right?
Yeah.
It's just like when you think about going to Canada, it's like it used to be just literally like nothing. You don't even have to like show anyone your passport. You just drive across. Who cares? And now, when I was doing that, and so, of course, I had a truck camper at the time that I was living in with all my streaming gear in the back. So I've got this like little tiny truck camper full of bins of camera equipment and microphones and lights. And so when I go across the Canadian border, of course, I get selected for a random search of my vehicle because I got all this crazy stuff in the back. And so I was there at the border for I don't know, like an hour or something while they were going through all my stuff.
So I have a quick story to end us off, I guess, with that's very, very tied to this Canada border crossing. So right before COVID, like a month before COVID, like we heard like of COVID and stuff, but like we weren't scared yet. We didn't know anything. We didn't know better. We were going to a War Machine tournament, in Canada. It was a big teams tournament. And we got a minivan with like 7 of us. We are all different shapes and sizes, all of us. And the one we decided to have drive was our buddy that's German that has a passport, but he's here because his wife's work. Drive the car. We get to the border. He rolls up. He has a passport that's like not the normal passport, and then 7 American passports with all of us in the back. We just look like we're from different, like totally different backgrounds. And they're like, "What's your visit for to Canada?" And he's very German. Like probably last like 5-10 years probably learned English, I assume. It might be longer than that. Sorry, Ben, if I messed that up. And he's like, "Oh, we're going to play with plastic soldiers and like have war and fight." And the guy's like, the security guards, I've never seen them winded so far. We get our vehicle searched. They open up the truck, just a bunch of metal miniatures, and they're like,
exactly what he said.
Yeah,
old soldiers.
Yeah, really, and then he like tried to explain like how the game works. Like they had us pull off to the side. It was amazing. Oh my gosh. And it's we never even thought about it until we drove up to the checkpoint. We're also in a rented van. Like it's not like he rented it as well. So it's just like all types of sketchy stuff is happening at once.
All the red flags.
Yeah, like every there's 1 German, 7. It was an amazing weekend.
We're traveling into Canada to start the rebellion. We are the little soldiers.
Yeah. The big red. He said gun. He was like they shoot each other like with guns and like other stuff. We're in the back seat like man. We're like realizing it with the other guy like how badly Ben is botching this and like making it sound out, and we're
don't say at the border crossing.
Don't. I know it's an American like I know you're from Germany. This is America. We have guns. Don't say that when we're crossing the border into Canada. But yeah, it was a great time. That's probably one of my most memorable. Oh, cute pup.
Yeah, he was coming.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and we'll have your socials and everything linked below, so go check him out. He makes amazing content. Honestly, we wouldn't have even had this set up as soon as we did without his help. He was a huge impact on us even making a channel. So really go check out War Games Live. Joe is awesome. He's a lot of fun. His Discord is always available. It's always a lot of fun to go in there and chat. People are always active. He's active in there as well. So yeah, go check him out. Do you have anything left to say, Joe?
No, I'm going to be streaming this weekend from Denver, Colorado, so hope you guys can tune in. It's going to be a good time. So.
Yep. Well, with that...
subscribe to War Games Live. Subscribe to us. We love it. It's great.
Yep. Like and subscribe. All of that fun jazz. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Okay.